How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing good. Been hustling on the recruiting trail, and that's it's a little new visiting with these 25, so you kind of feel a sense of urgency to get there and try to see them all, which makes it hard for people like me that want to do that. But it's a good thing, and feel sorry for some of the high schools. They're missing a lot of class. I don't know the answer to all of that, and then obviously with some staff changes, trying to get all that to where you feel a comfort level with where things are. So it's been going well.
Can you talk a little bit about your DC hire?
Yeah, I'm excited.
It
was John Cohen has been so supportive, but I said, John, I'm going to take my time now. I know I've got to get this right, and there was so much interest in it, and from people I really like, and it just man, I loved his interview. I love the time that we spent with he and his wife, Sarah. They're just they're great individuals and people that I think are going to add so much experience and value to our building and to our defense. And so I'm really excited about having DJ.
And then on the offensive side, you bring in a guy that you know really well, Derek Nix.
Well, it's a comfort level to have D Nix and Kent in that room. Knowing that the verbiage and terminology and everything will be things that I understand clearly and can add value to when I need to. And this, D Nix is one of the best recruiters, best men, best football coaches I've been around, and good to reunite with him.
You mentioned the verbiage. How much more, I guess, control do you see? I mean, I guess what's your outlook in terms of the offense this year? Play calling stuff.
Well,
like
I think it's too early to you constantly have great confidence in D Nix and in that room, but just knowing that it's in the verbiage that I completely understand, where I can suggest things or adjustments. I know I will know how to help more, and I have nobody to blame but myself. It's not that. I'm gonna be more comfortable for sure.
You're slowly becoming one of the more tenured coaches in the state. We were just speaking to your chief rival's new head coach, Kalen DeBoer.
I look forward to seeing him.
Do you know him? Yeah, he was here earlier. Do you know him well? What do you think of that hire?
Kalen and I go back to NAIA days. So I was the head coach at Lambeth University, and he was at Sioux Falls, and we were both pretty good. He was really good, and we were pretty good in our 2 years that I was there. And so we both got in the playoffs both times, and I got to know him a good bit, and think he's then Tom Allen is one of my best friends, and I talked Tom partially into hiring him, I think, as his OC in Indiana, and so thank a lot of Kate.
Coach, you have several players here, but a couple of local guys for us, and Nehemiah, Fritz, and DJJ. How do those guys impact your program, and what does it mean to see them now?
I wish I had more time with them, truthfully, but that they were the most experienced group on our squad last year, and I think for most of the year they set the tone of how to compete, and I thought our defense did that a good bit, and most of it's thanks to those two and to Marcus, who's also here, and to Simp, who's here. So to have four here is a good testament to those guys.
Coach, you talked about the deliberate process and how you took your time hiring your defensive coordinator. Talk about the impact having a guy like Charles Kelly already on your staff allowed you to have that luxury to take your time.
I cannot speak high enough of Charles Kelly. I've known of him, and we've had many recruiting battles, and he's tough to beat, particularly in this state. But I want to say the humility that he has is, man, if I was in Charles' shoes 10 years ago, I would have been clamoring, I'm the guy, man. I'm the one that you should hire. And I wish I was more like Charles, because that would have been me. And Charles all the way through it, and he would sit through the interviews with me, and if it was me after the interview, I'd have been trying to poke holes in everything and make sure you knew I was the best fit for it. And when I watch him and how he handled everything, the humility that he exhibited, and his whole deal all along was, Coach, get the best guys in the room. And however you want my role to be, you just tell me what you want my role to be. But I came to serve. I wanted to be with you, Coach, and I wanted to be at Auburn. And if you tell me it's to do this, great. If you tell me it's to do something else, great. He exhibited such humility and leadership, and I'm so glad we have him.
We were at Mr. Football yesterday, and we're starting to see a lot of these finalists for these awards that are headed to Auburn in 24 and 25. How big is it for you to start winning some of these blue chip guys in this state specifically?
Well, I think if you'll go back and look at, my interviews when I first started, that I said I really believe the 24 and 25 class would tell the story of our tenure here, and I believe that. And I think for 24 we were solid. We won a lot of good battles and top 10 class in the country. And I guess if you look at 25 now, we're probably ranked second or third in the country. And I think we need to follow up the 24 with a top 5 class, and then obviously followed up in 26. But I do think that 2 classes stacked back to back, I've seen that work at Ole Miss when I was there, and that's what we did. And in year 3, we were competing and beating the best, and I think we can do that at Auburn also. But I think we've proven also that we want to build it through high school kids primarily, and it feels more natural and more comfortable for me with that. Not saying that's the right way, and that I'm sure there's many different ways to do it, but I feel better about developing those relationships that I hope will be genuine and last.
One of those guys was Perry Thompson. What stood out to you both on film and off the field as well?
Well, he's just big and physical already, and we were missing that element, truthfully, from our outside guys. And when we started turning things at our previous programs, whether it's Ole Miss or Liberty, I can always point to one of those guys like him, Laquan Treadwell at Ole Miss, Antonio Gandy-Golden at Liberty, and now this RPO world with him and the likes of Cam Coleman on the outside. But in particular, you put a guy like him who's already physically strong enough to handle the press stuff that you might get in the boundary here. It's good to know we have him coming.
You mentioned at the end of the season that the quarterback battle was going to be wide open for you. How much did you guys poke around in the portal at that position, and do you expect to do that after the spring?
Yeah, I did, and I know the Twitter world had me taking everybody. I guess that's the hot thing to do now, is just if a quarterback went in the portal, I started immediately getting messages, this is the one, this is the one. And I really like our room, and I wanted to try to build with high school kids like Hank and Walker, and us try to develop those guys along with obviously the experience Peyton brings, and I kind of want to see that through.
Coach, you talked about the familiarity of some of the guys that you brought in, even kind of some of the off the field positions that have been hired. Just kind of what kind of comfort is that? And then, when you got here, was that kind of a goal of yours to say, hey, it would be really nice to kind of bring the band back together?
I don't know that I've ever taken over a program where in year 1 I felt like I got everything right on the hires. I think it's very difficult. I was talking to Nick this morning about that, and it's funny, Nick calls me a lot now. I think, and he rubs in that he's playing golf every single day. It's just you're in such a hurry, and I think it always has taken me a little time to just get the building exactly like I wanted, and we are excited about the comfort level. And I tell you, Will Redmond, I think, is a star, and he blew me away in his interview, and he's already adding great value to being in there. And we still have a few more hires to make, and I assure you they'll probably be people I'm comfortable with.
And could you have pictured, a time in college football where you need a staffer like Will Redmond as like a GM type? Just kind of your take on needing that.
It is different, but I need help with that. I do. I cannot. I got to have somebody you completely trust to help us build the roster and then manage it, whether it's the NIL discussions or whatever the discussions are. I really need some help with that to take some of that off my plate, and got a guy that I have great trust in that can do it.
And the other guy you have familiarity with, Crime Dog, is obviously going to be on the staff again. Just talk about being able to retain him for next year, and like guys like DJ and Nehemiah talked so highly of him yesterday.
Well, it's the 3rd time I've hired him, so obviously I love him and believe in him, and I don't have to worry about the message from him being any different than the message that I send. So, and he's a great recruiter and a great coach, and he really works hard at building genuine relationships. So glad we could talk him into coming back.
Hugh, what made DJ the pick for you, defense coordinator, just as a coach? What stood out to you?
You know, truthfully, like I said earlier, we really felt comfortable with he and Sarah as people, and that they fit with our culture, and I loved his passion and his drive. I think our practices will look quite different with him because I've watched some of his practice tape, and he's pretty into it and energetic, and I love that about him. But really, it probably came down to, in his interview, I've often felt like defensive guys in today's time should maybe coach defense verbiage-wise more like us offensive guys. And he's one of the first ones that when I had the entire staff in their offense and defense, and everybody's like, oh my, his verbiage is the most simple, but it's multiple, but it's so easy to understand exactly what's going on once you get the base. And that probably was that. Multiplicity, can do it all, odd, even, 3 down, you know, he can do it all.
Coach, speak to the fact that you've got an incredible linebacking core recruiting class coming in, and that's kind of like his specialty, how that meshes so well.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's good anytime, you know, I saw where we were ranked maybe number 1 in linebacking recruiting and receiver recruiting, or at least high up there. So anytime you have better players, it makes you better coaches. But to know DJ especially is the front, and you have Charles Kelly especially as the back end, I feel really comfortable with those two guys.
Last one. It's going to be.
He's our new SID, Caldwell.
Yes.
It's going to be strange to not see Cadillac on the sideline for you guys.
Yeah.
And Zach, just kind of like a new era of Auburn football on the sideline. How difficult was it to see him go?
Yeah, you know, we support, you know, both Cadillac and Zach's decisions, and love them both dearly, and wish them nothing but the best, and they'll always have, you know, great memories of what they did for Auburn.